There's a certain procedure you have to go through to do a job on the CNC. A little bit different from our router, because in a router, we cannot, whenever you mount a tool, you cannot determine the height of the tool. So we have to calibrate on each and every tool with a little disc, that sort of thing. And but on this machine, what we're going to do is set up all of our tools ahead of time. What we do is we set up all of our tools referenced in height to this reference tool. And the reason we do this is because once we come down and touch our workpiece with this, or determine where the workpiece is relative to this point right here, all the other tools will line up and we don't have to do any more checking. We just load the tools and let it go. So let's get going on loading up a set of tools. We have our G code. We looked at our G code. When we're making a G code, we should probably make a list. Tool numbers are really important because it's a tool number that tells the machine that I've got this in there, not this. All right, so what we'll do is I've set off all the tools we're going to use for this particular job. We're going to be using a spotting tool, which is already mounted. We're going to be using a drill bit, and it'll be using a 3/8 inch end mill. So let's start off by just mounting the tools in the holders. So I can put this in there. I've got our super little holder here in the vise. That's why I say it's best to not put your material in the vise first. Just go ahead and use this vise to hold the device to hold your tool holder. So I can, just like anything else, just secure in this case, secure a drill bit. All right. And it turns out this is already there. In our G code, we've called this tool number 1. So I'm going to set this over here in the rack at tool number 1 position. Now, so our G code will go through and spot those holes. Now this is tool number 2 in our G code that we've set up. Actually, a good thing to use is VCarve. You could use VCarve to do all this, but make sure that you set the tool numbers properly. This is tool number 2. It will go in slot number 2. I'm going to move something out of there. And our third tool, we're going to use this 3/8 inch end mills. So we've got to set that in either in an end mill holder or in a collet. I'm going to use this collet. There, insert end mill. Fairly deep. I want it to be nice and stable. And tighten this by hand. Now we can put it in our holder and tighten it. And I want it pretty tight. I don't want that end mill slipping at all. Okay, so now and then we have our reference tool. So in our rack, you can see it or not, but in our rack we've got a reference tool, tool 1, tool 2, and tool 3. We're going to be using reference and we'll be using 3 tools. All right, so I can take this out of here and put it away. This device is called a tool setter. And the way it works is there's a little micrometer or a dial caliper, kind of a dial here. And when I push down on this plunger, you can see that go around. And when that is all the way up on 0 like this, it's exactly 2 inches from this surface. So what we're going to do is we're going to take and measure our reference tool first, and then we'll measure each of our other 3 tools, and that will give us a distance relative to the reference. Okay? Maybe it'll make more sense as we go on. So first of all, I mount the reference tool. All right, and I need to move around to we're over our setting gauge. Bring this down a little bit closer. And that's good. You don't have to be exactly on center, but closer to center you are, the better, I think. Now what I'm going to do is, I've had our device here on 100 so I can move quickly, but I'm going to put it back on 10. That will give me much finer control. So I want to bring this down. Oh, let me first of all say I should probably go into mode. F1 is for setup. I'll push F1, and I want to set up tools, F2, and what I want to set up is an offset library, F1, and the first thing I'm going to set up is my ZREF tool. See, it says ZREF. I'm going to hit F1, and this will tell me right there on the screen what to do. I load the ZREF tool, I jog the reference position, and I'm going to come down.
Just a second.
All right. Okay. So now, now I'm going to bring down very slowly. Remember, I switched to times 10 so I don't smash anything here. And I'm going to watch that dial. And bring that dial around to this 0 and this 0. There we go. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is hit F10 for set, and that will set that position. Now that number doesn't mean much to us right now, but it's okay. That's its reference position. Now what I'll do is I'll bring that off of there and go in the slow mode first. As soon as I know where I'm going, I can go faster. You really don't want to smash this tool if you can avoid it. It's not good. So now we're actually going to set up our tool. We've got the reference tool measured. Okay, here's tool 1. I'm going to go ahead and mount him. All right. On here, I'm going to use the, like, it would be nice if this was touchscreen, but it's not. You have to use your I guess direction keys. Like I say, I'm going to set that to 0 right now so we can see the difference. Okay, so what we want to do is determine its offset in height. So again, just like the other thing, we come down and we get this guy on 0. There we go. So now we're at 0 on here, and we can say manual measure F2. It puts a number in there. I zeroed that out just to make sure that I can see that I put a number in there. So this is our offset. This is the difference between the Z tool, the Z reference tool, and this particular tool. And that's what it is. In other words, it's 1.122 inches shorter than the reference tool. So that's saved. You can specify a diameter if you want. It's not necessary for the kind of way that we use the system, but it helps with referencing things. Now I'm going to bring this up and mount the next tool. Take this guy out. We're going to drill bit. Put it in there. And same song, second verse. I'm going to zero it out. All right. Make sure that you're on tool number 2. When it's zeroed out, then you can hit manual measure. And you notice this number is positive. This is 1.559 inches longer than our reference tool, is what that means. Makes sense. This is the whole length of this thing is quite a long tool length, Z-axis. All right. When it's light, I'm going to go down to tool number 3. You'll notice whenever it's green, it's been set. And we haven't saved them yet, but we've set them. And we're going to take this out. And tool number 3. There we go. Again, I'm down here working on tool number 3. I'll bring it down. If you use something like, well, let me go ahead and finish this out. What we're really referencing off is a cutting edge. And we do have a tool that I'll show you that is a little different. There we go. Is that 0? Pretty good. I do manual measure. And this is 1.298 inches shorter than our reference tool. Okay, now at this point, let me bring it up. So we can take a look at these numbers and see if they make sense. And if they do, hit F10 for saving. You got to save it. If you don't save it, you can have a problem. So let me say a couple things about certain tools. Tools like these, for instance. You'll notice that in the center, that's not where we want to measure. We want to measure from this little point. So what we would have to do, let's take this one, for instance, and I'll just call it tool 4. We'll go, well, I'll not worry about that. We'll just put it in there. This thing's heavy. So obviously, if I measure on the center of that tool, it wouldn't mean much, would it? So what I really need to do is just move this. You could move this thing, but it's probably, it's actually held down magnet. It's kind of nice. And I can just make sure I measure off one of these points. So let's see. That's pretty good. And now I can bring this down. Now I'll set it up off of this point. That's not 0. Okay. So now I'd hit the manual measure at that point with that tool. So sometimes you may have to move the table either X or Y and bring your tool into position. And we'll remove it. The steps we just did are really important because the steps we did tell the machine where the tip of the tool is. If it doesn't know, you might come up here and it'll be cutting air above it, or heaven forget, it may find itself down here, into your material. So that's what we have to be careful of. Anyway, that covers the tool setting. The next step after this will be setting our material. And we want to know the XY location of our reference point on our material, and of course the Z. The Z is really important. But we'll do that next time.